one people, one language, and from these the nations spread out over the earth after the flood. Genesis 10:32. After the flood, the earth stood in silence. The waters had receded, but the world would never be the same. Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, became the patriarchs of new peoples. From these three men came nations, languages, and cultures that would fill the earth. But in the beginning, they still spoke one language, one root, one sound. The descendants of Japheth spread northward and to the islands. Ham and his children settled in the south and east. Shem, from whom Abraham would come, remained in the fertile heartlands. Among them, one name began to rise, Nimrod, grandson of Ham. A mighty hunter before the Lord, a leader who dreamed not only of land, but of dominion. He founded Babel, not just a city, but a symbol, a mark on the map and on humanity's memory. Babel was more than a city. It was an idea, a symbol, a response to the fear of being scattered, a project of eternity. In the plains of Shinar, the people decided, let us build a city for ourselves, with a tower that reaches to the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, so that we will not be scattered over the face of the whole earth. Their goal wasn't just survival. It was control. To unite. To climb high enough. Perhaps high enough to touch the throne of God. And as bricks were shaped by fire and pitch sealed stone to stone, an entire civilization began to rise. Not only in height, but in pride. They were building more than a tower. They were challenging heaven itself. The ashes of the flood still lingered in the memory of the old. Stories of destruction, judgment, and salvation were whispered from generation to generation. But time has a way of softening warnings and hardening hearts. On the plain of Shinar, the rhythm of construction quickened. Every fired brick was more than a material. It was a symbol of achievement. The city rose strong, and the tower, ever higher, seemed to pierce the clouds. There were no kings, no priests. Only one people, one language, and one ambition: to reach the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, they said. It wasn't about communion with God. It was about greatness without Him. They didn't want to be remembered as Noah's children. They wanted to be known as the ones who touched the sky with their own hands. At the tower's summit, leaders shouted commands. On the ground, thousands moved like one body, stacking, lifting, hammering. The glow of the furnaces lit the night, and the tower rose day after day like a spear into the chest of heaven. And God saw. The Lord, who once walked in Eden, who spoke to Cain before the blood was spilled, now watched an entire city rise against its creator. It wasn't the tower that concerned Him. It was the spirit behind it. The same pride that cast Lucifer out of heaven now burned in human hearts. The same desire to be like God that seduced Eve now climbed skyward with every stone. They thought they were building upward, but unknowingly they were digging their downfall. And so, the Eternal descended, not in fear, but in judgment and mercy. Behold, the people are one, and they all have one language. And this is only the beginning of what they will do. Now nothing they plan will be impossible for them. Then He chose to act, not with fire, not with water, but with something, far more powerful: language. That dawn, the sound of construction filled the air. The rhythm of hammers was like a heartbeat, pounding strong, the heart of a civilization that believed it controlled its own destiny. At the top, the tower touched the clouds. The heavens felt close enough to grasp. Builders smiled with pride. The impossible seemed conquered. Then came silence, a different kind of silence, deep, a pause between hammer strikes. And in the next breath, chaos. "Hand me the bucket," one man yelled. "Kedices," the other replied, confused. Words that once unified now fell like foreign noise. The same phrase, spoken by one, sounded like madness to another. What once brought unity now bred confusion. The same mouths now spoke different tongues. Work froze. Eyes widened. Men tried to communicate with gestures, yelling, pleading. But no one understood anymore. God had descended, not with a sword, but with, syllables. What had been a bridge now became a wall. In that instant, they understood. They would not be remembered as gods. They would not make an eternal name. They would not build a throne above the Almighty. They would be scattered, like dust in divine, wind, like leaves across a field. The city that was to be the center of the world became a symbol of disorder, and the tower, incomplete, abandoned, forgotten, became ruin. From Babel would remain no glory, but a scar, a visible reminder of God's sovereignty and man's limitations. And so, Babel fell, not by earthquakes, not by fire from heaven, but by the invisible fracture of speech. Each group, realizing they could no longer understand each other, withdrew. Instinctively, they searched for those who still shared their voice, and from that, tribes were born. Little by little, the plain of Shinar emptied. Men who once shared bread and dreams now took different paths. The very ground that united them now drove them apart. And the tower? It remained behind, alone, a bitter memory, incomplete, a monument to mankind's pride. It was named Babel, for there the Lord confused the language of the whole earth. And from there he scattered them in every direction, like leaves driven by divine breath. Tribes migrated north, south, east, and west. Nations were born. Cultures arose. A new era began. An age of diversity, of borders, of voices. An era where mankind could no longer so easily unite against heaven. But the lesson was carved in time. No matter how high man builds, no matter how many bricks he stacks, without God, his tower will always be incomplete. The name we try to make for ourselves crumbles before the one whose name is above every name, and as the world scattered, God's gaze settled on a single line. One people among many, one man among the nations, and from that seed would come a new story, a covenant, a calling. The next chapter wouldn't be about a tower, but about a promise, and it would all begin with a man named Abram.